it's only 17% if borrowers go back to the same lender.
What's called the berry button, red button that I hit.
Hey, remember that?
Right?
And, oh yeah, I love
Everybody, welcome back to the edition of Laugh, Lend, and Eat the podcast. And this is year 3 for our Meet the Recruiters episode. And we have a nice little panel that we've assembled. I think the good thing about this panel, unlike previous years, is we are covering coast to coast. So we are all over the place. And so I think we'll get a good vibe on what's going on in the recruiting industry. I know a lot of us get repetitive phone calls from these people, and this time we get to hear why they keep calling us so much. So let's go around, and I'm just going to call everybody, and hopefully they'll say hi. We got our third year in a row, by the way, Guy McFadden, our sponsor, one good one. Thank you for keep hitting up the bills. Appreciate you guys.
Happy to be here, Bob.
We got Matt Hill from Pursuit Search Group, Managing Director from Charlotte, North Carolina. And then we got my buddy, Ashlee Cragun from First Option Mortgage.
Hello.
How you doing, Ash?
Good.
So, Ashlee, you're in Utah.
I am. So I live over here in Utah on the west side.
Is it cold in Utah? Because it was like 32 degrees this morning in D.C.
Yes, it is at night, but it's not during the day. It's actually really nice and warm. It's like t-shirt weather, maybe like a light jacket some days, but we also are on a roller coaster right now. Spring's always like super warm or super cold.
And then you guys don't get that humidity like we get it over here, right?
No.
Here is like humidity, like the icicles just go. Matt, you were in D.C. You know what it's like.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Don't expose skin in the winter. Yeah, that's right. And then in the summer, you're just sweating the moment you step outside.
I got to go back to that statement, buddy. Hold on. Pause. I know we're on. You said don't expose skin.
No, freeze in the winter. Those are different winters. We don't do that down here.
Family oriented show, Matt. So we got to watch those statements.
Keeping it PG over here.
I don't know what you were exposing in DC, but I'm sure there's a lot of politicians who are right along with you.
Yeah, that's right. Very accurate.
Oh man.
All right, guys. Look, let's dive into this because we got a limited amount of time. We got a limited amount of attention span. So I want to find out. It's 2022, and I think you guys have all heard me say this. Every year that we've done this, I've gone into the show, and it's been a different season for recruiting. It's not like it's just, you know what I mean? And this year, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's saying this. There is like a mass exodus of people from company-wide to company-wide to company-wide. And it doesn't feel like I've been in the business 28 years. I haven't seen this kind of movement since I don't know when, so maybe 2008 meltdown when people were leaving the industry. But now they're just going from one company to another company. So Ashlee, I want to start off with you, ladies first. Sorry, guys. Is this something that helps you, hurts you, hinders you? When you have such an exodus like this that's going on right now?
I've been in the industry not as long as some of you. I've probably been in for about 8-9 years. And I do notice that this actually is something I see probably about every 4 to 5 years. And it doesn't hinder us. I think for us, it shows that people usually stay with their company between 2 to 3 years is kind of like what I've seen. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think it hinders us. I think it just shows that it's just a shift and people's priorities often change or a company is changing. So I think it's just really learning how to dig into why, even if you see, I've been in touch with that person for a really long time. It's actually just checking in with them and saying, what is it? Oh. I think that you'll find is that people's priorities just change. And especially with like COVID and things like that, people's priorities did change because it changed an entirely different dynamic of where it was 3 years ago before COVID. Actually.
So, Matt, when you see a guy leave a company and you've been talking to him for, I don't know, a year, right? Checking in. Hey guys, just checking in. I get those phone calls, right? Checking in.
Absolutely.
And then also the guy leaves and he joins another company and you never got a shot at him, right? I'm sure you've experienced that, right?
Yeah, once or twice or a million times.
Once or twice is pretty good, man. You got a good memory also. I like that.
A minute. Yeah, right.
So, how does that affect a recruiter? Does that do you oh my God, or hey, I wish you the best, or hey, what about your buddy Matt?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it definitely motivates me to make sure that I'm touching as many people that I'm connected with my network immediately. It's kind of a quick like wake up call of like, oh, I'm getting too comfortable. I've got so many people on my network that are having conversations, and if they're not talking to me, they're talking to somebody else. And so it's a great motivator for me of like, okay, let me celebrate that person. Let me reach out. Let me make sure they're on my radar. If in 3 months that onboarding is not going very well, and but then with that, knowing there's movement happening, don't get complacent, Matt. Get on the phones, talk to my network.
Yeah, that's a really good attitude. I mean, I do think that's I like the way you use the word celebrate. You know what I mean? And that's important, Guy. I mean, I know you actually, I've known Guy actually the longest out of all three. So just FYI, right? And I know Guy gets intimately involved with his clients to the point that, you know what I mean? And Guy and I work together, right? And Guy will be like, this guy he's an angel. His father's in heaven. His mother's, I mean, just like, and I'm like, Guy, everybody that you introduced to me is like some heavenly person. So Guy, I mean, tell me, when you get emotionally involved like that, are you invested that deeply, and does it affect you differently when you're that invested in a client that they don't call you and move to another company?
Well, let us clarify our words with the intimate, okay? Because we all interesting choice of words, Fabi. Thank you for that. Awkward right off the bat, but you.
I forgot you were 13. You can't use the word intimate around you.
Well, yeah, thank you. Am I the only one that went in that direction?
No, I totally followed that.
Thank
My
you.
face was like,
Hello.
let's
Thank
define
you.
intimate here.
Thank you. I think his point is, and he made it, was you do get emotionally involved, Fabi. And sometimes that can cloud, and you put on the rose-colored glasses, and you can be guilty of that, and you do have to step out. You know, the old, when you're inside the bubble, it's hard to be objective. I am guilty of that more than others, but point taken.
But what do you do to get out of that? I mean, does it hurt more? Does it feel different? I mean, when you're inside that bubble, guys, I mean, help me out here. Like, okay, let's use the word emotional, right? I'll go with emotional. Yeah, Ashlee, I mean, what do you think? I mean, when you're emotionally invested in somebody and they don't even bother calling you saying, hey, I've moved to another company.
So I actually have my friend, I actually had recruited over, I don't know if that's in your net or not, but I had a friend that I recruited to a former company, and then she ended up leaving. And I went to another company as well. So we actually split ways, and I talked to her weekly. She became a very, very good friend, and she made another move. And I remember calling her, and I was like, I was kind of hurt. Like, I'm like, we're friends. Like, because if you're a good recruiter, I think there is a fine line between friendship and work, but you're also able to separate them and realize that there is a friendship and then there's business. Okay. And I think that's across the board with leadership is, yes, can we take it personal? No, you can't take it personal, because it's not a knock on you. It's on what they needed and what the timing. And when she moved, she just said, it was just about the timing, and we already had conversations with someone else, and I didn't want to hurt you because I knew I wasn't going to come with you. Right. And it was one of those things where you separate it, and you never know, like in the future, like what Matt was saying, you stay in touch, you check in, and you do have to learn, though, that there is a line. Being a good recruiter means you are intimately involved. You are invested in these people.
Thank you for using my word, Ashlee. Thank you for using my word. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. But you do have the separation, and like Matt said, you celebrate, because as a recruiter, even though it is about helping them find the right spot and you want them to work with you, it's not about you. It's actually about them, and it's about what's best for them and their business. So if you celebrate them and you say, I'm actually excited for you, and I'm excited for your new journey. I'm here if you need me in the future, or if it doesn't work out, or if it does. And my favorite line to say is, you never know where you're going to end up, but you also don't know where I'm going to end up.
Right.
Because it's not just about them, it's about us.
Okay.
Well, and you failed them kind of, as I looked at what's happened to me, Fabi. I almost looked at it as, I didn't develop our relationship good enough where you at least sought my counsel. You know, I've had people like, they didn't want to give me the bad news. So away went them, you know, and then so I didn't do a good enough job to bridge that where they could just, hey, you know, and know that, you know, this option A is better for you.
Okay, let's take a pivot here, Matt.
Yep.
So, Ashlee used the word recruiter, and recently, you know, I've been doing a lot of studying on leadership and this kind of stuff, and I couldn't help but, as I was preparing for this conversation, right, like connect the dot between a recruiter and a leader, because basically, as a recruiter, you're leading them to the next job.
That's right.
Right. And John Maxwell, you know, and I love John Maxwell. He in his book, I forgot what the title of the book was. I'm sorry, but he wrote that basically a leadership is nothing more than the ability to influence someone's actions or thoughts. So as a recruiter, you guys are basically leaders.
No, I think it's an interesting way to phrase it. I mean, I think of like Donald Miller, you know, the story branding concept.
Yeah, love
right?
that. Yep.
He's big on like, we all as human beings want to be taken somewhere story, right? The 7 points of every movie. He'll ruin every movie for you and those things, right? But what he talks about is we're the hero of our own story, right? And then the idea is that the hero meets a guide, has a problem, right? Meets that guide, gives him the play, and then avoids disaster and has success. And so with that, as recruiters, we really want to position ourselves not as the hero of their story, but as the guide. And so if we're able to adequately do that, then we have that trust where we're going to be able to counsel them and actually give them feedback and not just pitch them something that's going to best benefit our wallets and the clients that we may want to push them to. People ask me all the time, hey, what's, you know, company X's best value propositions, those kind of things. I don't know. I haven't talked to the candidate. You know, I don't know what matters to them. I don't know what moves the needle for them, you know? So until I find out what matters to them, what solution, what problem they're trying to solve, I have no idea what the best value proposition is, let alone the best lender for them, which is nice being third party as well, because then I can, without prejudice, pitch whatever I feel like may be the best solution for them. So
Ashlee, you're pitching first option, and you're not really able to, like Matt just said, you know what I mean, have 3-4 different lenders to kind of give your, is that an advantage or disadvantage? I
think it's both, actually. I think it's an advantage because I am very invested in the company. It's a company I believe in. It's a company I love, and I'm in it every day. I have more interactions with each people on different departments, which I think is a big advantage because people, I don't know if you, I mean, I'll tell you straight out, like my face tells you the story. I mean, if I'm happy, you're going to know. If I'm sad, you're going to know. And so I think it's a benefit because people do see excitement. I mean, I hear from people fairly often saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited you love your company as much as you do. Like I see it, it's on your face, it's in your voice. The disadvantage, I would say, is that there are times where I do, and don't tell anyone I said this, but there are times I do talk to candidates and I'm like, we're not a good fit for you. And it hurts. It hurts me more, not because we're not a good fit, but because I can't get them there. I have to connect them with someone. I connect them with people, and across the industry, I've sent names to people and things like that. But in the end, that's actually what people respect. So it's a disadvantage, I guess, in my pocketbook, but I wouldn't say it's a disadvantage because I don't try to convince people. I rather see, are we going to bring value to you, and are we going to help your business, your clients, your referral partners, and you and your family? Because if not, then I do pass them on, and that's hard. That's, I think, hard because you are basically just like, you can't help because it isn't something that's going to benefit them. And
I'll tell you, just to jump in too, Ashlee, with my partnerships, obviously I was with Movement for 4 years, and now obviously on my own working with a number of different lenders. And I never place a strong producer or team without a strong, just really sharp internal partner with a particular lender. That's the person that knows the ins and outs of that company and lender very, very well. Is going to be able to connect the dots. I don't know those things, and I don't want to pretend like I know those things, right? If I know like a Fabi and I've got a respect for him, I want to position them and say, hey, you need to meet Fabi, but then you need to talk to Ashlee. You need to know all the aspects. So this is a good fit for everyone. And sometimes I miss wearing that jersey with one lender. That is very fun to wear that jersey and know I'm flying the banner for this lender. And if not, hey, pitch them over to Matt. Matt may have some other lenders that's a better fit. There's such a synergy that happens, though, when you're winning like that together, for sure.
Guy, I mean, you're representing multiple companies. I mean, how do you know which lender or which candidate, maybe because I think you're in multiple industries, which
Yes.
candidate is right for your or which company is right for your candidate? I mean, how do you make that distinction?
Well, first of all, I'm kind of envious here of Ashlee, listening to her and seeing the other side. The grass is always greener. You know, kind of reminds me of, you can speak from it personally. The 401k, it's a different vibe.
Mhm.
Where I was coming from was I was getting depressed since I'm so emotional, as Fabi has made it apparent. There was, I
I'm
couldn't
emotional
help
too.
you.
Ed.
Uh, I'll try. I'll switch to decaf real soon. Um, I would get attached to somebody, or you want to work with somebody, but I only had this box. Do you know what I mean, Ashlee? So
Mhm.
I couldn't help you. You know what I mean? And handing them off is not something I want to do. I want to take them to the end zone. So that's kind of what got me into it. And to answer your question, Fob, it's really from the candidate himself will really give you that information. Okay. Because the more you learn about them, the more you learn what their strengths and weaknesses are. And you should already know that about who and what you're representing going in. So it's kind of at that point, they would really kind of guide you to where you want to go.
But
So
I
I
mean,
have a
hang on.
question,
Oh, go ahead.
actually.
Go ahead.
So my question is actually for both Matt and Guy.
Uh-oh.
And, you know, it's kind of because you guys are third-party recruiters. And, you know, I have developed relationships with not just other internals, but also third-party, you know, recruiters. But my question is do you guys have specific things that you ask so that they can guide you to these candidates to build the stronger relationship? Because, you know, they know you're shopping around for them, but what is it that you ask or that you look for, so you're not making the decision for them because they are an active participant in their future?
Yeah, Guy, Matt, who wants to
Great
jump in?
Matt,
All right.
you,
All right. Well, I will say there are things they say and things they don't say. I'm listening for both. So, things they say obviously are, we're going to talk about products. You know what that is, where their business comes from, different things in terms of, you know, specialties in terms of what they're looking in terms of size, access they want to leadership, things like that. There are obvious things that I want to pick their brains on. Things they're not saying is I'm hearing about challenges they currently have at their current shop. Maybe they don't want to throw their lender under the bus, those kind of things. But I'm listening for things that may not even be able to articulate themselves that they need to overcome some of the challenges in their business with their next lender. So I don't want to move them across the street and them have the exact same challenges. They just want to wear different colors. I actually want them to be able to solve the problems that to scale their business or those types of things. So things to see and, you know, and things I'm listening for.
So, Guy, I want to twist Ashlee's question because it's interesting. Actually, you and I almost had the same question, right? So I think the conversation kind of led to that. But I want to ask you, Guy, I mean, when a candidate misleads you, right? And I mean, and they don't tell you the full story why they want to leave company X, like Matt's saying, right? Like maybe they don't like the underwriting because they don't like the way the underwriters work over there or whatever. And you're like, they omit that fact, right? Let's take the word misleading out. Let's just say omit because they don't want to throw the company under the bus. Like, you know what I mean? And you put them in with another company that has the same underwriting system. I mean, is that your fault or is that the candidate's fault for not telling you exactly what's aggravating them and why they're having a conversation with you?
well, that Ashlee's question was way easier. Okay,
I'm glad I went first now. That's
well,
right.
but you know, we'll look for Ashlee's podcast coming soon, hopefully. Exactly.
Did you read my Facebook post? Because that's kind of creepy you said that.
Okay. Be honest with you, Fob, as opposed to not, it's you try. I think you get back into leadership and you try to find the path and try to discover. People try to paint themselves in the ways. This is in the mortgage industry, and I deal in other industries. There's a lot of ego involved. Okay, there's a lot of bravado. All right, and that is to be expected, and it's hard to cut through. if you know what I mean. And it's my job to try to cut through that, because some of that bravado is as annoying it can be, got them to where they are. You know what I mean? That type of,
Great
you
point.
know, thing that would annoy the common man or woman, got them to this area. So you don't want to take that away, but yet you want to cut through the noise a nice way and try to find out. Or you're right, you could run into the same problem. You know, you can only do the best you can, Fab, but a lot of it has to do with leadership.
So with bravado, I mean, Ashley, I mean, with all the technology we have available today, you know, I know, I'll share this story, right? I mean, I'm talking to a candidate. I'm looking at the MMI report. This is not a plug for MMI, right? I'm like, hey, it says in 14 months you've only done like, you know, 9.5 million, right? You're telling me you did 28.
That never happens.
I
It's
mean,
a
we're not,
lifetime, Fab.
we're not off by a few million. We're off by a significant amount. You know what I mean? And the candidate still says, no, I did 28 million. Right? I mean, Ashley, I mean, where does the conversation go from there?
So I mean, this never happens to me, just so you guys know. And I know Matt has never experienced this, and none of us have. But
Only Fabi has that one.
only Fabi.
The
But
personality.
not to. I mean, I appreciate that you said it wasn't a plug for MMI, but you know, the one thing you have to keep in mind is that not all data is 100% true.
Fair.
The other thing you have to understand that people have to remember is, yes, MMI is an amazing tool. I love it. Again, not a plug, but there are other systems as well. And if people are saying that they did a certain amount, that actually sparks multiple questions for me. Do you have a team? Do you have someone that's supporting you? Are they putting loans under that? Like, is that person, are they filtering it down to other like LOAs? I think that sparks more questions, right? But it also says, it also reminds me not all counties are required to report. So you do have to pay attention to that. I do a little bit extra research and go look at that county and look at that state, see what's normal. But it does just get you to ask questions like 28 million. And then you're like, okay, so where are you getting your business? Because maybe it's that they had 28 million in their pipe, but they didn't close. And that actually leads to it actually is because there is an underwriting issue, or that there is a processing, or they don't have products.
What you're saying is they're confusing funding versus originating.
Sometimes you'd be
originated
surprised.
28 million, but we're only able to fund 9 million.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So there is a difference because, I mean, it's all about definitions. And in this industry, you can see that one person's definition is different. And so you have to kind of figure out what that definition is, because you have to say, how much have you funded? Or even find out non-QMs are not always reported. So you can say, is that non-QM or is that not? It shows you that, is it bond loans? Is it not? Is it what types of loans? It brings Matt's question in about what products are you actively using?
Right. So Matt, I had a new manager start with me recently. I think he's pretty cool if I talk about him. He did about 48 million last year, right? And just started with us.
Yep.
And his thing is, Fab, I want to get to like 120, 140 million dollars my own production, right? Now, honestly, I was never that big of a producer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to tell him, look, I don't know what's required to do that, because by the time my production got to that level, I opened my own company and I became like a managing owner of a company.
Right.
And then I started my production started going down because I'm doing other stuff that, you know what I mean, you can't produce, at least I couldn't produce and have multiple locations, multiple loan officers, all that, whatever that company turned into.
Right.
So when you have a borrower or a client candidate that says, hey, Matt, I really want to find a company that will help me get to the next level of my career. I mean, is that a valid question? I mean, I'm sure you guys get asked that question, right? Or, I mean,
yeah, those are the conversations you want to be in. Obviously, as a recruiter, you want to talk to somebody double and triple in their business. And I know plenty of them. I'm talking with one guy. He's probably going to do 200 million this year in his team and everything. And he wants to keep growing in this environment. He does not want to stay still.
Mm-hmm. And
he's looking for lenders to say, I want to talk to the 3 best lenders that have P&L models that are going to allow me, give me the transparency and leadership and allow me to scale and grow my business. Let's go. As a recruiter, it's like, all right, I want to run through a wall now. Right. So, so with that, the biggest thing is leadership, right? So it's like enabling them. And sometimes the best leaders that are going to help somebody grow their business haven't been top producers. Oftentimes they have, sometimes they haven't. Best coach I ever had in baseball, Mike Schilt. He was just the manager of the Cardinals.
Wow.
And yeah, he never played a big league game. He wasn't a big time player. He broke the mold, but he's the smartest baseball man I've ever met in my life. You get in the cage with him for 30 minutes, you'll think you're Hank Aaron.
Wow.
And he just has such a gift, right? So with that, he didn't have to play in the big leagues to level set with big league players and to coach at a very, very high level. Those are rare people, but I think not, putting everyone in just one category. If you can coach, if you can develop, if you can add real true value to an originator's like bottom line, like actual tangible results, that's what moves the needle for top producers. Help me grow, right?
That's awesome. And the funny thing is, and so we're going to pivot again here, right? Time for a pivot. So it's my show. I get to pivot when I want. John's not here to dictate today.
Go ahead.
But you invoked the word coach, right? And I've been really on this topic with a lot of different people, right? And coaching is so instrumental in our lives today more than ever, right? But yet most mortgage professionals, Todd Duncan says over 90%, I tend to agree with that number, you know what I mean, don't have a coach.
Wow.
They don't have a coach, and they're like running around, and this manager that we just brought on board, I mean, he was nice enough to actually ask me, right? And I'm going to find him the right coach because I want him to do 150 million of his own production, right? Because if I don't know how to do it as a human being, my job is now to find him the person, right? Because maybe I know somebody who can then coach him. But Guy, I mean, recruiters have coaches. So the question comes back to is how do you feel about coaching? I mean, you're a huge sports fan. I mean, just like Matt, and I don't know about Ashlee. I know, but we all have coaches. I mean, sports people have coaches.
As Matt was talking, and we're a couple of baseball guys, I immediately was thinking of analogies. And as you know, Matt, a lot of the greatest ball players tried to be managers and couldn't be. And I'll give you an example. One in my own family, my sister was a natural, all right, was a great hitter, just took to it like a duck to water. I, on the other hand, the mailman's obviously, I had a long time to learn. It was not something that came easy for me. I had to actually learn how to do it and then learn again because I didn't learn how to do it properly the first time. Yeah. And I think when you have come from that, Fabi, when you have had to learn yourself, it makes it easier for you to explain and go down that path with somebody. So that's why coaching is, and picking the proper coach is so important. Success does not necessarily mean you'll be a good coach. It's, can you relate and can you inspire? And a lot of times, as you know, as a coach, you put the brutal in brutal honesty. Okay. Right. I've had many coaches tell me what I didn't want to hear, but guess what? It's what I needed to hear.
Yeah. Ashlee, you're big on coaching. I know you get coached, right?
I do. So if you don't have a coach and you're watching this video, get a coach. So I actually always had mentors, and I loved it. I had people I looked up to, people I watched on social media, and oddly enough, I got coaching whether they knew it or not. But last summer, I went through a transition in my career, and I got my first coach ever. And to this day, I actually reached out to her yesterday, oddly enough, and I was like, you had more impact on my life, and how my confidence is up, how I approach people is different. I am challenging myself more. They're people that even if they're not in our industry or have done it, they often will find the skills you need to be able to do it. Right. Sometimes having that fine comb to look at the basics of time management, communication, follow-up, things like that. That's across the board in the industry. I work with other coaches now, and I see myself, I've grown more in the last year just by having someone that's an outsider, not connected to myself or my company necessarily, that's been able to move me forward. And, when people say they don't have time for a coach, I always sit and think, I said, then what is your goal? Because if you have the goals to grow and you want to be better, and knowledge is power.
Yep.
And sometimes you need someone that is going to be brutally honest with you and be able to just smack you around a little bit to help you learn.
But Ashlee, when you grow, right? I love that because I love growing, right? And so when you grow internally, do you find when you're talking to candidates, you can see weaknesses in them a little bit more than you could see a year ago?
Absolutely.
Like a year ago, you might have been okay with something. Today, you're like, dude, no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do see it come out in my recruiting. And oftentimes some of the people I do recruit or have recruited in the past, they do bring that up and they'll say, you saw something or you heard something that I didn't even realize. And so as recruiters or business development leaders, and we are also coaches because we are coaching them, and we pick out, like Matt said, the said and unsaid to be able to help them. So I think coaching is a necessary tool for everyone. And it is something that's helped me become a better individual, leader, recruiter, business development person.
Guys, let's talk about compensation. That's such a voodoo topic, right? But a lot of people in this industry, and I'm trying to say this the right way without offending anybody, right? But a lot of recruiters have ripped a lot of companies off, right? And I've seen some of the checks with past companies I've been part of, right? Where they stroke some really big checks for some pretty big brand name people or whatever, and then did not get what was promised to us by that recruiting company, right? And a lot of recruiters have had a negative, what's the right word to say that? I don't want to use the word intimate. Yeah, I mean, it's just bad eggs, bad apples, bad players. Every industry has them, right? Mortgage people, we have it, right? I mean, think about the 2008 meltdown, right? I mean, all the bad players left and the good guys were left holding the basket like, uh-oh, the lights just turned on, right? So, I mean, the recruiting industry has bad actors as well, right? And I've seen a few of them in my career. How do you guys, and I guess this is more for Guy and Matt, so Ashlee, I know because you're working for First Option, right? So this is more for Guy and Matt because you guys are third party. Guy, let's start with you. How do you overcome that stigma? Like, hey, stroke me a check for this much and good luck if something doesn't work out in 90 days, you know what I mean? Whatever that guarantee is, right? I mean, walk me through this.
Well, again, I can't, that there's many things in the recruiting world that bothers me. The fact that it's almost like dial a date, and not researching, that's one thing. When we get into comp,
and please don't get specific. By the way, I don't want to know your guys' comp. But the comp.
Well, I'm saying about comp.
Well, actually, later.
Actually, I want to hear about it. To me, it's a mindset, Fabi. Okay, and the mindset in prevail in other companies that you were speaking was, tell them what they want to hear, show the bells and whistles, and pray that they make 90 days so you don't have to pay it back. Okay. And that's the game. What we did with one good one, to throw a plug for myself,
shameless plug coming up.
Many shameless, one of many. Why do you think I've been on 3 years, guys? For once, I'm going to get it right. All right. He keeps bringing me on. And one of these days, I'll get it right. But this we did get right is a lot of times we'll have a comp plan for us is directly reflecting what the production is, and spread out over a year, 2 years, one company, 3 years. There, you're vested in the actual success. Okay. So we can do a deeper dive. I want to do a deeper dive because I get nothing if you flame and if you burn. Okay. All I did was spend hours and hours recruiting for you and to get nothing. So to me, it's a mindset, Fabi, of long-term success. Your success is my success, so we're actually attached at the hip. And your failure is, unfortunately, I'm saddled with that too, and I have. And it's not fun, my friends.
Matt, how about you, bud?
Yeah, no, great thoughts, Guy. I mean, I think one, just accusation audit right out of the gate in the first conversation with a new client is, listen, you've probably been let down by other firms, and what have your relationships look like? How have you won? How have you lost? Those kind of things, so we can navigate how you've lost and not do that again. So that's one thing. Just also trying to figure out what you're trying to achieve. If you're a smaller shop and you want to go after teams, those kind of things. How can we build an agreement that mitigates your risk a little bit more, right? So extend out agreement or guarantees and those types of things as well. I find is really helpful. And then sometimes it's not a fit. So I try not to sign agreements with lenders that I can't do a good job representing, or those kind of things. So with that, because anytime I mention any lender to a candidate, I really want to believe in that lender with that candidate, and then vice versa as well, right? It's just a very small industry. And so you guys know, I mean, if the deal goes south, everybody's going to know about it. So with that, those are a couple thoughts around that. And I will say right now it's hyper competitive, and, the rich are getting richer and the poor, trying to hold on right now. So with that, there's money to be spent for top originators. So I think, Guy and myself are probably right now, I can tell you, we're writing pretty aggressive agreements right now with our clients, because to go get the best, it's very competitive. And so if you want an audience with the best, you got to pay for it right now. You do. Right. So, but again, the thing that I struggle with the most, I will say, an agency on my side, is I feel like a mercenary sometimes, because I'm not wearing the jersey of that particular lender. And so I feel like I'm just pitching out just to get the highest fee. And for me, I'm a lab. I want relationships. I'll take the deal behind the relationship. So I'm wired. And so I struggle with that on a daily basis, probably the greatest struggle of mine, because I just want to win that team. We talked about sports. I want to lock arms, and I want to win with my teammates. And sometimes I don't feel that as much because I'm not internal. So Ashlee, that's why I'm jealous of you sometimes, Yeah.
So Ashlee, I mean, internal, right? But you still got to deal with the stigma of the bad actors in the industry, because listen, I mean, while Matt was talking, I remember this. I don't want to get into specifics. I really don't. But I had the worst interview one time at a company in New Jersey that's no longer in business. Whoever can figure that out, I'll send them $100. Right? And it was like, what happened in this interview, I don't want to belabor it. You couldn't have made it up. It literally happened that the CEO walked out of the room and left like his EVP and all these other people, because nothing made sense. And the recruiter that had convinced me to come talk to their company wasn't even in the room. You know what I mean? And so they had a hotel room for me, and I was like, you know what, guys? I'll drive home. It's another 4 hours, but I'll be sleeping in my own bed tonight. That's how bad the whole thing went. That much I'll tell you, okay?
Yeah.
So the stigma, even if you're an internal recruiter, is still there, of the bad actors in your industry, just like we have bad actors in our industry.
Right. Well, and Fab, I'll say that's a great point. I talk about it a lot. I mean, the three things, and I'll rank them in order in terms of what you're looking for from a recruiter. 2 is that trust, authority, and likability. And in order to be trusted, you have to be able to tell the truth, right? And that's what I'm sure, Ashlee, you struggle with as well, because you're a very genuine person, a communicator. I've seen with Ben and people I know that know you as well. But also, it's like, how do you got to kind of overcome that objective of, I just want people to come to first option because I want to get that fee. I want to win. So regardless, I just want to squeeze this square peg in this round hole because it benefits me. So that's a challenge for recruiters, and the ones that can do it well, that truly build that trust and care about that candidate and that client, gosh, you will win. You will win. It will return to you in tenfold.
Ashlee, jump on in here, girl. Come on.
So I love this. So I always tell people when I interviewed, when I was in my transition last year, I interviewed a lot of companies, and honestly, all of them were amazing. And, one thing that I always tell people is I am over quality, not quantity. And it's not about the number of heads. It's about how many, like the quality of people, and if it's a good fit for them. And so, when I talk to people, there are really bad, not bad recruiters, because I don't know them personally, but there are bad tactics. And so I think what, we started this conversation about is how have things changed. that's, I think, how I overcome that, because I want to get to know someone before I like invade their, personal space. I don't want to friend them on Facebook. I don't want to text them without conversation. And that's me. And that's a personal thing, right? And when I do talk to people and have great conversations with candidates, if it ends with a thank you or you're not like everybody else, I have won. And I haven't just won the recruiting game. I have won myself. I've won that I have been genuine and that I have been real. And you said about like when you went and met with that company, the recruiter wasn't there. I try to be in every conversation that my recruit is in, because I have seen people where they go in and they aren't telling the truth, or they're trying to impress someone. And I'm like, yes, it's about impressing. It's about them, wanting them to come work for you, but don't lie. Like, don't tell them something that's not true. And so I have called people out and I said, actually, let me explain this. And so that actually has helped me grow my personal brand and also my own confidence, because I don't need to overcome everyone else. I just need to make sure that I am standing true to myself, and I can stand up in front of someone and be confident that I did what was best for you.
Yeah. I know, Ashlee, you and I lost a candidate a few months ago, and I said to you, Ashlee, if we lost them because we were honest, I'm totally okay with that, because I don't want them here, right? If they saw something that they don't like, move on. I'd rather go ahead, guy.
I was going to jump in because I have a really interesting one where I happened, because I'm like you, actually, I wanted to be in every step of it. I had a higher up, more of an area regional, and he's meeting with the director, and he's talking about his pipeline, and he's describing them. And one of the people he described, he's like, oh, he has no ambition, he doesn't want to recruit, I'm like, wait a minute. I've talked to this guy. This is not the same gentleman you're not describing at all. One of us are on planet Pluto here, you know what I mean? And that's why you need to be involved in every step of it, because sometimes there can be misrepresentations along the way and you wouldn't know it. And I was able to jump on the spot and deal with it. But if I wasn't on that call, or if I wasn't involved in it, that's the picture that was painted, and perception becomes reality.
Yeah. That's interesting. So it's really, if you think about this, we spent probably the most amount of time on this bad actors. So this really obviously
that's your fault. You did that. I think you have skeletons. This is about your healing, Fabi.
You know what? I'll be very honest with you. And I wrote about it in my book, by the way, where the worst guy that ever recruited me, 99% of what they recruited me was a lie. 99% of what they told me was a lie. And what I realized in that moment, when I put all the pieces together, was when I lied to people to recruit them, I'm not affecting the candidate, I'm affecting the person's family. Absolutely. Because my family was devastated because my income dropped because of the lies that the person told me to get me to join.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I don't understand is like, what? I mean, Matt, like, do people think like if I lie to Matt, he'll come on board, and then Matt's stuck with me forever? He's not going to leave me because Matt's just a good guy, and I lied, and he'll be okay with it. What is the foundation of that, Matt? Walk me through this.
Yeah, I think it's just to your point that the recruiter is not as involved, especially remote and everything. You could be across the country recruiting a group and everything. And I think just we can convince ourselves they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. They'll be all right and everything like that. I think we can talk ourselves and convince ourselves of that. And I think we actually believe it oftentimes as recruiters. So I think it's really important for us to take a step back and really do a good job of auditing ourselves on what our intent is in this relationship, and are we doing right by them? Because to your point, it's critical to the family. I always love getting the spouse involved with recruitments because it's sure.
Yeah, Ashlee, I mean, I know you're an honest person, and we really beat this one up, but I mean, when you find yourself right there on that edge, I'm talking about where all you got to say is one little thing, and the guy will probably at least take it to the next level. But that little thing is not actually true yet. It could be true in 6 months because you're, being a one man company or one company person, right? You know more of the internal that's
Mhm.
going on, things that we're working on, projects that we're working on. How do you handle that moment?
I will tell you exactly how I handle it. So I actually had this with our good friend that just started a few months ago.
Okay.
Here that you referenced earlier. That's amazing guy. And when I was on a call with him, he asked about a certain item, like I can't even remember what it was, but he asked for something, and I said, and I flat out said we don't have it. And I said, but I can tell you that we're working on it. And I can tell you that I am personally helping with that project. And I said, it may not be complete by the time you start, but I can tell you that I am going to help you make sure that it happens because of the importance of it.
That's awesome.
And so that's how I handle it, because I don't want to say, oh, it's coming. I want to say, no, I flat out want to say no, or it's not here, because you can't make a promise. You can't say it's going to be here. It's gonna, because then they come back because they don't hear it's going to happen or it's possible. They hear it's happening.
Yeah.
And so for me, I say, it may not be here now, but I will either pitch it or I will work on it with you directly to make it happen. Because yeah, sometimes it sucks when it's that one thing, but is it worth my integrity, and is it worth me affecting their family and their lives? No, never.
Well, and to your point there, Ashley, it's that first 90 days, especially the first 30 days, even everybody's asking them in their network in that very small market of theirs that everybody knows everybody. How's the first 30 days? Are they doing what they said they'd do? Right? That is how you blow up a market or grow a market, by keeping the promises that you're making. Right. So that, to your point, that's huge. I've seen some tragedies in markets because of, let's just get this leader, we'll figure it out, and then they leave 30 days later, and that lender never does any business in that market again because of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
And I will say, sorry, Fabi, one more thing. Matt, thank you for saying that, because it's true. And it is the 30 days and it is 90 days. So, although I am a recruiter, I also help support on the onboarding side, because recruiting does not end on hire day. Your recruiting never ends. And that's what I think people sometimes miss, whether that's a recruiter or a leader. Yes, they need to build that trust with their leadership, 100%, but recruiting doesn't end ever. And so being involved in their onboarding and being there and checking in on them, and, because they've developed that trust with you. And so being able to help them fix things or be able to communicate things that they maybe don't know how to yet or who to communicate with, recruiting is all the time. And I'm sure you guys stay in touch with people you place. A relationship doesn't end when you place them.
So we're going to take a big shift real quick because we're running out of time, and I needed to get to this because my head has all these questions now, but I got to ask about technology because, the mortgage industry, right? Everyone says we're like 20 years behind on technology, right? So we're like slowly catching up, but recruiters, I don't know, like the technology that you guys are utilizing. I know MMI, right? And I know CRM, blah, 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 blah. But and I'm sorry, actually, it's probably more Guy and Matt, right?
That's okay.
As third-party companies, you guys are you guys left out of technology? Do you guys embrace technology? Is technology not needed in your industry? Guy, what do you walk me through this as quickly as you can?
Well, I'll be very quick, especially with my knowledge of technology. Trust me, we'll be 30 seconds and out and know everything I know about it. I know this much, Fabi. You have to use all the tools, okay? But ultimately, it comes down to that relationship, because as Ashlee was talking about, we're not selling Buicks. We're developing a relationship before, during, and after, okay? So you can use every tool in the belt, but ultimately it comes down to that communication and that trust, because this is their careers. This is their life. Okay. We're not, there you go. So how was that? I think that was under 30. Thank you. That's all I know. Done.
Matt,
it was 45 seconds. Thank you.
Oh,
that was good, Guy. You kept that one quick, man. No, that was great. Technology, I think, helps us continue relationships and expand on the relationships we already have, right? So automating certain things, emails, text, social media, those types of things. That just helps us, right? It doesn't take the place or anything like that. It just helps kind of automate and help us touch more people that we want to talk with anyways. It's not a fake thing. There's nothing that's not genuine about it at all. It just helps automate and extend us and kind of duplicate us in our efforts every day, because we want to talk with all these great lenders or great originators out there. So,
all right. Well, look, guys, this was a fast 50 minutes. This was quite quick for me. I didn't realize how late we were running. I want to thank Guy McFadden, Matt Hill, Ashlee Cragun for taking the time out and joining Laughing Underneath the podcast. I want to absolutely thank Guy McFadden for One Good One sponsoring us, Ashlee Cragun for First Option sponsoring us. I mean, it's been a great relationship. We've really appreciated everything that you guys do for us, whether you realize it or not. And I think that's it. I can't say JP get me out of here like I normally do, but JP get me out of here.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of Laugh, Lend, and Eat, the podcast. You can now enjoy Fabi's article, Laugh, Lend, and Eat, featured in the Vision magazine. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where each month we are giving away some swag for our lucky listener to show off. Thank you to our sponsors for their continued support, First Option Mortgage and One Good One Recruiting. And remember, you have to be something, so be kind.
All right, guys.